In an offseason that continues to have shocker after shocker, Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach Bruce Arians stepped down. But then it was revealed it's kind of part of the plan because he wanted to give Todd Bowles a chance to lead a strong Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that also has Tom Brady coming back this year. That caused a lot of buzz about what's going to happen in the NFC and what's the outlook for the upcoming Tampa Bay Buccaneers run and what was Bruce Arians' plan all along. That, along with Bobby Wagner signing to join the reigning Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams, big news there in seeing how they're looking to repeat as champions. Also, we'll look at our betonline.net official odds on who are going to win each conference here on the Locked On NFL podcast. It's the Friday edition with Chris Carter and your boy Q. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On NFL podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with my friend and co-host, your boy Q. He hosts Locked On Raiders. I host Locked On Steelers, and we host together the Friday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast, which you can find on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. If you're watching this video on YouTube, hit the like button on the video if you enjoy it. Hit the subscribe button to our YouTube channel to get all of our daily content here on the Locked On NFL podcast. And we thank you for making the Locked On NFL podcast your first listen every day. Q, it was another wild week in the NFL. It seems like we don't get any regular weeks anymore. There's no quiet. There's no you can just take a couple naps this week. No, if you do, you're gonna miss big news. And of course, the big news on Wednesday was Bruce Arians stepping down from the head coaching position of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, staying on as an administrator and saying, he felt that that this was kind of gonna be coming anyways, and he didn't want to hold the team back. And Todd Bowles getting a 5-year deal to take over there. This is an interesting step for me, Q, because you and I have talked a lot about how minority head coaches and black head coaches have not gotten fair shakes a lot in the NFL. But Todd Bowles is a guy who was a coach for several years, didn't work out with the Jets, has been moving around, trying to work his way back to that position. And he didn't just land a job. He didn't get the Jets. He didn't get the Texans. He didn't get the Cardinals before they drafted Kyler Murray. He got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady. What does this say to you about Bruce Arians and what's been going on there?
Well, I've always been a big fan of BA. I really have. I thought he was a hell of a coach. Think that he's a hell of a guy, just a genuine dude. And if you look up and down the roster and you look up and down the coaching staff of what he has going on, he's always been the leader of the bunch when it comes to minority coaches, women coaches. He puts them in really good positions. And I'll tell you right now, I'm happy for Todd Bowles. He's a guy who interviewed with the Raiders for their potential head coaching position. He didn't get it. Obviously, Josh McDaniels did. But little to his knowledge, he was going to end up in a better position. I mean, he's already familiar with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He knows what they have going there. He keeps that continuity there, but he gets to be the head coach. The only, not question I had, but the only surprise that I really had in this whole situation, I thought that when BA decided to step down and retire, Byron Leftwich was going to be the guy. I thought that was going to be the, you know what I mean? Like, I thought that was going to be the guy that got the job just because everyone was talking about he was the next up-and-comer. Well, all of a sudden, here you go, and you see Todd Bowles. Again, not mad at Todd Bowles or Byron Leftwich, just was surprised, kind of, caught off guard that it wasn't Leftwich. But I think that what Bruce Arians did was smart. I like the way that they waited until, late March and the owner meetings, and then to make sure that they could just go ahead and give a succession plan instead of having to go in there and interview a bunch of people and do all that other BS. They just knew that, okay, if we wait till this time, then we can just appoint Todd Bowles as the head man. So everyone in the background, and it wasn't Todd Bowles, but everyone in the background from Bruce Arians to everyone on up, I mean, that was smart planning on their point. And look, there's another African-American head coach now in the league. And again, the continuity there in Tampa Bay is a pretty good spot. So now we'll know if Todd Bowles is a good head coach or not because he's got a good team, unlike he did in New York.
Right, and he's gonna have a great quarterback. He's gonna have talented receivers. He's gonna have a talented line, defense. He's gonna have the whole nine, and he's gonna have a chance to really put on a show. And against an NFC South that continues to look weaker and weaker as we go throughout this offseason, they're not adding the pieces that are changing things. Marcus Mariota's the Falcons quarterback right now. The Saints, Andy Dalton's a backup to Jameis Winston. That's nowhere near where Drew Brees was in his prime. And the Carolina Panthers, don't even get me started with them. So, it's just, I think
Matt Rule. Shout out to Matt Rule.
That's your guy, man. That's your guy.
I know,
who knows? He might take himself some Kenny Pickett. So we'll
Right.
see how we'll see how that plays out. But there's no doubt that this is a real opportunity for Todd Bowles to show what he can do. And again, it's a testament to who Bruce Arians is. He's been known even way back when he was in college. I just understand when guys would start to segregate naturally, because that's just what happened back when he was that age. He wouldn't be a part of that. He'd hang out.
Right.
He'd hang out with the black guys, and that's awesome. That's always been him. He worked under Mike Tomlin with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's never been shy about promoting black and minority assistants as well as you said, women. I think it's a really cool sign for him. And for him, the letter that he wrote, or the notes that he made, where he was like, listen, I could stick around for a year and then put this whole team through a search next year, or I can step out of the way, let Todd take over, and kind of still work football for my last year doing this. But why would I get in the way of that? I think it takes a lot of humility. I think it takes it takes a lot of class, and I think Bruce Arians handled this as well as anyone could.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, it's one of those situations. If you're Todd Bowles, you're like, good looking out. Good looking out. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for believing in me to hand over the team that is self-made and ready to win. And so I think that was a good situation. I also really like Bruce Arians because one of the big things that he implemented as a head coach, I know for a matter of fact, with Tampa Bay. I don't know if he did it with the Arizona Cardinals or any other stop. He was in Indianapolis, and everywhere he's been successful. I mean, he really has, and that's what I really like. But in Tampa Bay, I know for a fact that he made sure that none of the coaches that were on his staff were working so hard that they missed family time. They couldn't miss a kid's soccer game, a kid's recital, a kid's baseball game. If they did, they were in trouble. And I don't remember the extent of the penalty, but it was like something pretty massive. It was like, you are not going to miss this. And I think that that's smart because so many times, and I know I'm guilty of this myself, we get so obsessed with what we do that we miss out on things that we shouldn't be missing out on. And even at the highest level, which is the NFL, Bruce Arians said, yes, this is important. We want to go win championships. But we also need to remember what is more important than what we're doing here. And a lot of times, like I said, I have no problem admitting that about myself. I get caught up in everything that we've got going on. It's like, oh, I don't have time. I've got to do this, that, and the other. Bruce Arians said, no, you're going to make time. And so I really respect that because his coaches, they followed suit. So, yeah, BA, man, shout out to him. I think he did everything the right way. And I think Todd Bowles is set up in a really good position moving forward.
Certainly. Lots to respect when it comes to Bruce Arians. Just like there's lots to respect when it comes to the next player that we're going to talk about in this next segment, who now is on a new team, and not just a new team, but on the reigning Super Bowl champions. Of course, we're talking about Bobby Wagner. But first, we got to talk about betonline.net. It's that time of the year again where the Final Four is upon us. So why don't you get your chance to put some money down on the Final Four by going to betonline.net? They have all the latest odds, contests, and player props. And betonline.net is the #1 sports source for all your sports betting needs and information. BetOnline rings the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information needs, live betting, and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and all the action at BetOnline, where the game starts. Back here on the Locked On NFL podcast, I'm Chris Carter. He's your boy Q. And let's switch topics here. We talked about a coach and changing there, but Bobby Wagner finally has a new home, and he's to the pain that this must cause Seattle Seahawks fans. He is staying right in the NFC West. He goes to the Los Angeles Rams, 5-year deal. I think 5 years, $50 million or something like that. Ridiculous money to a guy who is 32 for this season. That's a lot to ask. Now, he's a guy who has produced over 100 tackles in every single season that he has played in the NFL. And last year, he had the most tackles of his career with 170. Granted, that's also when you play more games. But point being, he's been the man. I'd say for a long time, you could even say he's the best linebacker in football. But Q, what does this move do for the Rams? Because if you look at him and you think, oh yeah, he's the same guy as he was when he was getting, he made 5 straight All-Pro, first-team All-Pro teams. He's not that same guy, but he is still Bobby Wagner and a serious threat at inside linebacker.
Yeah, he's a stud, and again, of course, you're always going to slow down a little bit as you get older. And of course, that's why Seattle found it okay to go ahead and move on from him, because they had a young stud behind him. And that's the name of the game. But look, for the Rams, I mean, he's a great get, because they're a team,
Yep.
They're not trying to win 2, 3, 4 years from now. They're trying to win right now. That's been the theme for the Rams each and every year. Win, win, win. They're like DJ Khaled. That's all they're trying to do is win, and they're trying to do it right now. And so Bobby Wagner comes in with all that experience. He comes in with all that know-how. All he's got to do is put together one hell of a season. He's got to put together a great season. He don't have to put together 5 great seasons. And look, the contract, like you mentioned, $50 million up to $65 million. I'm sure that when we finally get the details of it and really break it down, it's probably more like a 2-year deal and a couple of avoidable years. But who cares? He's getting paid. He earned that money. He's done it throughout the course of his career. But I just think it brings them that veteran presence that they're so good at using and winning with and setting themselves up. They lose Von Miller. He goes to the Buffalo Bills. I'll tell you right now, personally, and I know that Bobby Wagner is not a guy that's going to get after the quarterback, I think that they upgraded. I think that they still have a better player than Von Miller. Von Miller is going to show up in crunch time, and you need that. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. But Bobby Wagner is a guy that I feel like is going to play at a high level all season long and also have that leadership that he brings to the table. So I think that the Rams defense just got better. Anytime you have Aaron Donald on that front defensive line, I mean, you're already winning, and you just got studs all over the field. So it's so funny when it was announced that he was going to the Rams. It's like these guys are playing with a different salary cap than everybody else. You know what I mean? Like their salary cap is somewhere else. It's in Candyland or something, because they keep winning and they keep finding ways to sign guys. I'm not mad at them. I respect their business, their business model, the way that they handle their business, and I think that they're set up for a really good another good run. I don't know if they're going to win the Super Bowl because it's hard to go back to back, but they're set up for a great run, man. They really are.
They really are. And again, like you said, one lesson I've always learned from studying football is when you control the middle part of the field, you give yourself a much better chance to help the sidelines out. And I can't think of too many other guys that could control the middle of the field better than Aaron Donald and Bobby Wagner over the past several years in the NFL. So certainly a major point of emphasis there to see how this plays out, because that's the other thing with this, does this work out? Does Bobby Wagner still have it in him? At 32 years old, he's no spring chicken. He's not in his prime anymore. So I really want to see how that works into what the Rams are trying to do. But hey, we've seen crazy things happen. We've seen guys get those spurts back, and maybe that could be a game changer. We'll see how that plays out. But certainly the NFC West is looking rough, and it's making the NFC even more interesting. We just talked all this much about Tom Brady and all those guys returning. Well, they got Bobby Wagner. They still have Jalen Ramsey. They still have Aaron Donald. Ooh, lordy, lordy, lord.
Right, and then on top of that, I mean, he's getting to play against his old team twice a year. You know what I mean? So that's gonna be a little bit extra motivation, especially since he found out that he was being released by way of Twitter. They didn't even have the decency to call him and say, "Hey, Bobby, by the way, I know you've been a great player for the organization since we drafted you. We're going to go ahead and just let Twitter tell you that you're going to get released." So I know he was kind of upset about that. Pete Carroll said that was a bad decision, that they wish they had gone better than that. And so I think Bobby Wagner is going to have a little bit of chip on his shoulder. So the NFC West is still going to be a dog, and only difference is Bobby Wagner is going to be playing for another team, but he's going to be really aiming at those teams in that division. So it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. Switching topics here, a longtime legend of the NFL, of covering the NFL, John McClain, a guy you've talked about a lot on this show, is retiring from his 47 years working at the Houston Chronicle. Q, I've been a guy who's watched John McClain on television a lot. I've always admired the holistic view he gives on things, the historical context he could put into conversations. But you've interacted with the man. You've had him on your show. Yeah. You've talked to him.
My guy. Yeah.
What does this guy retiring mean to you? What does it mean to you after seeing all that he paved out there in the world.
Well, he paved the way for a lot of people, including myself. I mean, if it wasn't for John McClain, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in right now. I promise you right now, he's a guy that no matter how great he is, he's a general, he's a Hall of Famer, he's in the Hall of Fame. He took me under his wing and said, Q, this is what I need you to do. Q, this is what I see in you, and this is how you're going to get better. And he helped me along, and he introduced me to the right people to help put me in the position I'm in. So, yeah, he's a wealth of football knowledge. He is a walking encyclopedia. He could tell you stories on top of stories on top of stories. Yeah, he worked for the Houston Chronicle, but so many times he shared Al Davis stories with me. So many times he shared all kind of stories with me just about being around the NFL. But most importantly, John McClain is just a real down-to-earth dude. You know what I mean? If he saw something in you and you might not have seen it in you, he would take you to the side and say, hey, man, you've got an opportunity. This is what you need to do. When I was in Central Texas, he told me straight up, he said, Q, you need to get out of here. Not because this is a bad place, but you're better than this place. And I thought, well, you know, because he was a Baylor guy and I was covering Baylor. And I said, well, I'm covering your alma mater. He said, yeah, there's other guys that could do that. You need to go on to bigger and better things. He told me that straight up. And you know, to this day, he does my radio show. He does it every Tuesday. He's on as a guest, and he even called me before he retired and said, "Hey, I'm retiring. I'd be honored if I could still do your show." Like, think about that. I'd be honored if I could still do your show. I'm like, who am I to tell you no? You could do my show until you don't want to do it no more.
But Q, that says so much about you for a guy he's been, I mean, that's a guy, like when I listen to him talk about football, he's talking about why the 70s were so important. Right. He's talking about this player, that player. And for all, he's met thousands of reporters, of radio people. And he says, can I still do your show? That's why you're the man, you boy Q.
Well, hey, I'll tell you, man, I'm just blessed to know the guy and all the people he introduced me to, all the doors he opened up for me. I'll always respect John McClain. And so, like I said, anytime he wants to come on the radio, he can always come on the radio. But yeah, man, that's one of the greats. That's one of the greats that the NFL lost, and he's still going to be around the game. I know that for a fact, but he just won't be working for the Houston Chronicle. 51 years of sports writing is what he's done total. 51 years. I mean, that's incredible.
Years.
And he tells me to this day, Q, I've never worked a day in my life because I love it. I love what I do. It's not like work. So that's something that I try to keep in my heart and remember. As much as sometimes I think, oh man, these hours are long. Oh man, I'm tired. If it's not something that you don't love, then maybe you should find something else. I love it, so it's not like I'm really working. And so I kind of take that from John McClain. So when I saw the news, and I remember you tweeted about it as well, I said, hey, salute to the general because, he has absolutely earned it. So John McClain, if you have not met him, if you have not read any of his work, do yourself a favor and read some of his work because the dude is fantastic.
Yes, he is. I learned so much from just listening, reading, watching the stuff that he's done over the years. So congratulations to him and a happy retirement to him. But hey, apparently you can still listen to him on Q's radio show on Radio Nation Radio. So do check him out there. It's going to be awesome. But earlier we talked about betonline.net as one of our sponsors. Well, we want to look at some of their odds and the numbers that they're giving on who's going to win each conference. We're going to do that right in a second here. But first, we got to talk about our other sponsor, Built Bar. It's that time of the year where you're starting to give up on all your New Year's resolutions. April Fools, you're not giving up because guess what? You got Built Bars on your side. And if you want to try something new with Built Bars, try their Puffs flavors. They're the first ever protein-infused marshmallows. They're fluffy, marshmallowy, and they're not just a protein bar. They're a tasty treat. And they're covered in 100% real chocolate. They come in flavors like cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, and banana cream pie. And they're also good. And if you want a regular Built Bar, guess what? You can still get those. They're also covered in 100% real chocolate. And they're low in calorie, but high in protein. The average Built Bar, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 17 grams of protein, and 4 net carbs. The average candy bar, 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. And there's so many flavors you could choose from for Built Bars, whether it's double chocolate, coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, all the flavors available. And then you could get them all right at their website, built.com, that releases new flavors every single month. So go to built.com right now. And when you do so, put in your promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15, LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your next order of Built Bars when you visit built.com. Back here on the Locked On NFL podcast, I'm Chris Carter. He's your boy Q. And Q, we were talking about betonline.net and the odds and everything that's going on there with how they're starting to release their predictions for how things will play out next year. Now that we do see how most rosters are at least going to look for the most part, the odds are out. So go to betonline.net or betonline.ag to check out their sports book and get all their odds. Now, this is very interesting here because I bet you these have changed a little bit because of recent moves. But in the NFC, the favorite to win with odds of plus 375 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, followed by the Green Bay Packers at 500, the Rams at 550, and the Niners at 700 with the Cowboys at 800. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. The 49ers are so high, and it's interesting that the Rams are so not so low, but I mean they're
They're the champs and they're third.
Right, exactly. I would think that they would be ahead of let's see, who'd you have? Tampa Bay first and second was Green Bay. I would think you would have them ahead of Green Bay because Green Bay has a question at wide receiver because Devontae Adams is no longer there. That would be my question.
Yep. I have a hard time. I mean, again, they just lost. They lost in their first chance at the playoffs at home.
Right.
And the Rams are the reigning Super Bowl champs. I don't see the rationale there. Hey, but maybe they see something that we don't. But other teams in this mix here, the Cowboys at plus 800 behind the Niners. Of course, the Cowboys lost to the Niners in the playoffs. The Cardinals are after them at plus 1,400.
They always fade. They always fade at the end of the season.
They do. It's the Cliffsbury job, man.
Yep.
But I'm interested in that. There are the Buccaneers rightfully the number one seed here, or the top betting odds here, or is that also just like y'all are feeling the comeback of Tom Brady just a little too much?
I think that's the Tom Brady effect, but I would question it a little bit because now you do have Todd Bowles as the head coach. Not that he's a bad guy, but we just know what we know from the last time he coached. And of course, when he was the head coach, he was with the Jets. So that's not an organization that's up to par with Tampa Bay right now, and they don't have Tom Brady. But I just think that it's the Tom Brady effect that gives them a little bit more edge. I would be with you though. I'd put the Rams at number one. I would give them the best chances because they pretty much bring everybody back. They've actually improved the roster, getting Bobby Wagner as we talked about in the second segment, and then also who else did they bring in? They brought in Robinson from Chicago, the wide receiver.
Allen Robinson. That's a big add on their part.
Exactly, because Odell Beckham Jr. is probably going to be out for a while. So, and they, obviously he's a free agent, so he can go anywhere else. But I think that Robinson is a big time get, and to add that to the roster that they already have, I would say that in the NFC, the Rams should be the number one team.
Yeah, I'm right with you there. Now on to the AFC though.
This is where it gets squirrely and hairy. Yeah, exactly.
Now it's crazy, but I guess it's not crazy, but three of the top four teams with their best odds are from the AFC West. But the number one team is the Buffalo Bills at plus 425. Behind them, the Kansas City Chiefs at plus 590, the Chargers at plus 775. And get this, their fourth rated team to have the best chances to win the AFC Championship next year is the Denver Broncos. I get that Russell Wilson is there, but plus 975, my goodness, that's some crazy odds. And then after them become the Bengals, the reigning AFC champions, but they have the same amount of odds as the Browns, both sitting there at plus 1,100. Q, this is wild to me.
Yeah, it's to me as well. Again, like you mentioned, Russell Wilson's in Denver. We know that. But I have a lot of questions that go along with the Broncos, including their head coach. Nathaniel Hackett's never been a head coach before. So this is, so that's an element that you have to play into that. It's not like you think he's going to go in there and just be, Bear Bryant immediately. You think he's going to just go in there and be the guy? I don't see that, but hey, maybe they feel like they know something more than we do. I'll say this. The last few years, Denver's gotten a lot of burn. A lot of folks have been saying that Denver's going to be this team, Denver's going to be that team. And look, Cody Rourke does a great job of hosting Locked On Broncos for the network. And, he's 100% honest about the organization all the time. He's pretty high on them as well. So maybe they're seeing something that we're not seeing. But you got to show me before I believe that Denver's going to be that good. And, as far as Cleveland, I get it that they picked up Deshaun Watson, but he's going to miss time.
Yeah.
So who's going to be your backup quarterback? You're going in there with Jacoby Brissett. You think that he's going to be the end-all, be-all? I mean, there's a reason why he continues to make a tour around the league. I mean, because he's just not the end-all, be-all. So I'm kind of confused why Cleveland's so high up. Now, unless they know something that we don't know, like Deshaun Watson's not going to miss any time, I find that hard to believe. But That's the only way I can
And the
see.
message that would send, oof,
Right.
that would
Oh,
be a
yeah.
firestorm.
That would be the worst case scenario for the NFL. They'd probably find a way to overcome it because that's just what they do. But man, you want to talk about having fire and pitchforks out. Everybody would be coming for the NFL if they allowed that to happen and
It'd
no
be bad.
suspension.
Now, behind the Browns and Bengals at plus 1,100, the Ravens and the Raiders tied at plus 1,200 as equal odds there. The Ravens are an interesting team because they were so hurt up last year.
Yeah.
All their running backs, their cornerback, everybody was getting hurt last year. So I feel them. But the Raiders are also an interesting team because we talked about this a lot. They shouldn't have been in the playoffs in my book. I thought they should have faded a long time ago. And then they made that push there. And now you got Devontae Adams. Hello.
Right. Right. No, exactly. I think that the Raiders are making some good moves in the offseason. I think the biggest issues with them and probably why they're still ranked where they are is because the offensive line is still a question. You know what I mean? Like, I think in all honesty, like, hey, it don't matter who you have catching the ball or running the rock. If your offensive line ain't worth the salt, it's not going to be good. So I believe in Derek Carr. I believe in Devontae Adams. I believe in Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs. But I do believe that their right side of the offensive line needs to get solidified. So maybe that's why they're a little bit below, where they're ranked right now. But the Ravens, I'm with you. They had a lot of injuries last season. I think they're going to come back bigger, better, stronger than ever. I think they're much better and they should have higher odds than Cleveland. That's for sure. If they didn't have higher odds than Cleveland, that to me is a problem. But again, maybe people are just the odds makers are just kind of prisoners of the moment, I guess. But yeah, that's an odd one to me for sure.
Rounding out the bottom here in the AFC, Dolphins at plus 1,400, ahead of the Tennessee Titans at plus 1,600. I guess they're really feeling the Tyreek Hill move and how that plays out. I'm just not so the Dolphins are going to figure that out in just
Their
1 year.
quarterback's the biggest issue with me.
Yeah, exactly. Tua hasn't been doing it, and now you got a new coach. There's just a lot of question marks that I think will befall them. And meanwhile, the Titans, they get another crack at what they learned last year, and if they can keep Derrick Henry healthy, maybe they do better. The Colts at 1,600 tied with the Titans. Of course, Matt Ryan joining them with the run game that they have. That's an interesting bet. That'd be an interesting dark horse bet. You put down some money thinking that you might hit big with the Colts next year, even though I wouldn't put down that money. But if you're the extreme gambling type, I get it. The Patriots at plus 2,000, Steelers at plus 4,000, the Jaguars plus 6,600, Jets plus 8,000, and the biggest number, the Houston Texans, where if you put down $100 on them, you could make $12,500.
Davis Mills, baby! Davis Mills, baby!
That is just ridiculous. But interesting odds here. I get some of them. The Bills, I totally get it. They were on the verge last year. They added Von Miller. They're going for it. The Chiefs, you always got to put them in that conversation. The Chargers have loaded up. It just got funky for me around the Denver Broncos, then the Bengals, then the Browns, then the Ravens. I'm like, what are we doing here? But hey, betonline.net is your chance to go out there and make some money, y'all. And do be sure to check out Q on the Locked On Bets podcast because he does a great job there covering all the different odds that you can be making money off when it comes to sports betting.
That's right. Damn right. Me and my Lee Sterling, my guy, he does a great job breaking it all the way down. And so, yeah, check us out, Locked On Bets each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. That's how we do, man. Hey, we're all over the place, right? We're not just one trick ponies around here, man. We're very versatile. So that's how we get down.
Mobile, agile, hostile. Just like Denzel Washington said, remember the Titans. But anyways, Q, that's our show. We're over our time.
It's done already?
Yes, it is. That's how time flies when you're having fun, man.
We just getting started.
And we didn't even argue about the color of my shirt. By the way, what color is it?
It's blue.
It's purple.
Is it really?
Again,
okay, I can see that. I can see that it could be a purple.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's definitely purple. But this is an even weirder lighting thing. So because I'm in a hotel right now, and I didn't have too many lights to put on me. If there were a lot of lights on me, you definitely see the purple. But at least you're amenable to it this week because you weren't amenable to it last week.
Everybody knew your shirt last week was orange.
Listen, I put that out there. Everyone that I put it on the poll was like, that's red. That's red. That's red.
When you put it by itself. And then everyone said on the episode, it looked orange. That's what people told me.
We're not even going to start. I said, yes, it looks orange, but it's actually red.
Don't get me started. You're going to have your internet go out while you're at the hotels.
Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. But Q, let people can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
everything's on Twitter, man. At your boy Q254, Locked On Raiders, Locked On Bets. You can always hear me on my radio show. I put a link out on that as well. But it's real simple to find me. At your boy Q254 on Twitter. And that's the only social media I use. Chris, now you have about 18 of them. So which one? What you got for them?
At Carter Critiques, the only way you find me on any of them, but you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. You can also follow the Locked On Steelers podcast, just like you follow Locked On NFL and Locked On Raiders. Find us on YouTube, find us on Apple, find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, all the places. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button on the video, hit the subscribe button to our daily NFL channel to get all of our daily content. You can also read my work at dkpittsburghsports.com and all the other great work that we do there. Thanks so much for checking out the Locked On NFL podcast with Chris Carter and your boy Q. We appreciate y'all checking out the Friday episode. We'll be back next week with more on the NFL on the Locked On NFL podcast.